The call to reclaim. At Runnymede Fields, a truth was born, a light of law to face the storm. No crown, no throne, no tyrant's hand could rule above the people's stand. Part one showed roots where freedom lay, that government must serve and not sway. Created by us for us to keep, not masters above, but servants meek. Part two revealed the paper disguise, the person built to bind with lies. Yet living man and woman stand, not fiction's pawn, but flesh and hand. Part three cried, consent is all. Without it, chains of paper fall. Contracts true, need, will, and choice, not silence robbed of rightful voice. And now part four begins to say, the time to rise is here today. Sovereignty is not bestowed. It is the fire within our soul. So stand as lions, proud and free. Remember who we're born to be. No systems trick, no statutes claim can strip away what truth proclaims. Our heritage, our voice, our right still burns as brightly as that night. The call is clear, the path is plain. It's time, my friends, to reclaim. Hello, everyone, and welcome to part four of Common Law. This is Reclaiming Your Sovereignty. Happy Sunday, as always, sending you all loads of good health and happiness. And just a quick reminder in case anyone watches this for the first time and thinks, what is all this about? Well, with what's going on in the UK currently, knowing your rights, your true rights now is probably more important than ever, considering it's your true rights that are under attack. And by your true rights, I'm definitely talking about freedom of speech. So this is part four. It's the last in this series. I might follow on with some other bits and pieces around common law and police. However, from a foundational perspective, these four episodes, if you do grasp some of the stuff that you can then take on and actually implement, I kid you not, I've said it a few times, this stuff works, and it has to work because it's set up as a game that we're not supposed to know about and not supposed to know the rules of by the establishment. And when I say the establishment, I basically mean governments, the judicial system, the police, although a lot of the police, they don't even realize what it is they're saying when they're saying it. They just know they have to say things a certain way. And I've covered all of that in previous episodes. So on to episode 4. Bear with me. Let's bring it up. So part 4, reclaiming sovereignty, living as free men and women under common law. So the introduction, what sovereignty really means. In the first 3 parts of this journey, we built the foundation. Part 1 showed us that common law was born from the people, shaping government as its servant. Part 2 revealed the split between the man or woman and the paper person or the legal fiction. Part 3 reminded us that contracts and consent are the battlefield of freedom. I spoke about your signature and that being the most powerful thing that you give away every time you've given it away. Now in part 4, we come to the heart of it all, reclaiming sovereignty. Because sovereignty isn't just a word in history books. It isn't just a crown or the parliament. Sovereignty belongs to the people. It belongs to every man and woman. And yet, somewhere along the way, we've been led to forget that. And this presentation is about remembering. It's about reclaiming what was never truly lost, only hidden. It's about living not as subjects of a system, but as sovereign beings in truth. The historical view of sovereignty. To reclaim sovereignty, we first need to understand what it meant. For centuries, kings and queens claimed sovereignty as divine right. They ruled as if authority flowed from God down to the crown and then onto the people. Common law turned that upside down. The Magna Carta in 1215 shattered the myth of unchecked power. It proclaimed, No free man shall be seized or imprisoned except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land. Now, why is that so relevant at the moment? They are locking people up across the UK, British people, for just talking, whether it be writing their words in a tweet or an Instagram, but either way, they're words. And under the Magna Carta, okay, under common law, no free man or woman shall be seized or imprisoned except by the lawful judgment of his or her equals or by the law of the land. So these people, like your Tommy Robinsons, your Katie Hopkinses, your Lucy Connolly's, and so many other people, they're being banged up, locked up completely illegally. Sir Edward Coke later carried this torch, declaring that even Parliament could not overrule the common law. He insisted that sovereignty resided not in rulers, but in law that reflected reason, fairness, and the will of the people. So sovereignty has always been contested. Rulers claimed it for themselves, while the people quietly held it in their hearts. The question is not whether sovereignty exists. The question is who holds it. So sovereignty in the modern age, if we fast forward to today, governments still claim to act in the name of sovereignty. They speak of national sovereignty, parliamentary sovereignty, and sovereignty of the crown. But what about the sovereignty of the individual? Because here's the truth. National sovereignty means nothing if the sovereignty of the people is ignored. A free nation is built on free individuals. If the individual is if the individual is reduced to a person, which is the legal fiction, bound by assumed contracts, then sovereignty becomes a hollow shell. That is why sovereignty today, just checking my mic's on, is not just about waving a flag. It is about understanding who you are, where your rights come from, and how to stand as a man or woman under common law. The mechanisms of control. To understand how sovereignty is lost, we must see the mechanisms of control. 1, the legal person. If you're watching this and you've not seen the others, you need to go back to understand what your legal person is, because it's how you get shafted. The system interacts with the paper fiction or the paper version of you, not the living being, not the living version of you. Assumed consent. Through statutory law, silence is taken as an agreement. Licenses and permissions. Natural rights are repackaged as privileges granted by the state. Debt and taxation. Obligations are imposed without genuine contracts. Surveillance and regulation. Every movement monitored, every action filed until sovereignty feels like a story from the past. These mechanisms work not by force alone, but by belief. If people believe they are powerless, they behave as subjects. But at the moment they realize they are sovereign, the entire structure begins to shake. And that is based on the power of saying no. Sovereignty is not only about what you accept, it's more about what you refuse. When a king demanded taxes without consent, the people said no, and Magna Carta was born. When tyrants demanded silence, the people said no, and free speech emerged. When rulers demanded obedience, the people said no, and revolutions swept across nations. Could that be any more relevant to what's going on in our country at the moment? The power of no is the seed of sovereignty, not violence, not rebellion, but refusal to surrender what is already yours. Every man and woman has the right to say, I do not consent. Show me the contract. Show me where I agreed. And we touched on this in the previous episodes of common law. I do not consent. Show me the contract. Show me where I agreed. If you can stick to your guns in these situations, whether it be a police officer trying to intimidate you, or in a court, potentially with a judge and a magistrate, if it's got that far, your consent genuinely, and again, you have to go back and watch the previous episodes. These things only exist because they rely on you to consent. They rely on your belief in their fiction. That's why they're called legislations and acts. Acts. They're not laws. They're not real. And if no contract exists, then under common law, no obligation binds you. That is sovereignty in action. Sovereignty and responsibility. Sovereignty is not a shield to hide behind. It comes with responsibility. If you freely enter into an agreement, your word is law. If you cause harm or loss to another, you are accountable. Sovereignty is not a license to avoid duty. It is the power to choose duty consciously. That's why reclaiming sovereignty requires maturity. It's not about saying no to everything. It's about saying yes when it's right and no when it's not. It's about living in honor, standing in truth, and respecting the sovereignty of others as fiercely as your own. True sovereignty is not selfish, it is shared. A sovereign man recognizes a sovereign woman. Sovereign people recognize each other as equals. And in that mutual recognition, freedom flourishes. It really is that simple as well. And something else I want to say on this, right? I don't care how provocative it might sound, but a sovereign man and a sovereign woman recognize also that they are sovereignly the only two genders, a man and a woman. Sovereign people recognize every other people as equals. And in that mutual recognition, freedom flourishes. It really is that simple. So how do we reclaim sovereignty in daily life? Number one, know the difference. Understand that you are a man or woman, not merely a person. Number two, seek consent. Ask where and how you agreed. Demand proof of consent before accepting obligations. 3, use your voice. Speak truthfully, honorably, and without fear. Sovereignty grows when it is spoken. Number 4, withdraw consent. If something is unjust, then you have the right to say no. Number 5, stand together. Sovereignty is strongest when people unite, not in violence, but in truth and solidarity. These steps are simple and they are revolutionary because they shift power from the state back to the people where it belongs. Reclaiming our culture, our heritage, and our voice. To reclaim sovereignty is also to reclaim culture. Common law is not just legal history, it is English heritage. It is British identity. It is the wisdom that says, do not harm, cause no loss, act in good faith. When we allow free speech to be censored, surveillance to grow unchecked, and our traditions to be eroded, we are not only losing culture, we are surrendering our sovereignty. That's why events like Unite the Kingdom matter. They are not just rallies, they are a reawakening. They remind us that sovereignty belongs to the people, not just in theory, but in practice. To reclaim sovereignty is to stand in who we are: British, free, sovereign, human. And there's a spiritual side of sovereignty as well. Sovereignty is not only political, it is also spiritual. Every man and woman is born free. We come into this world without papers, without licenses, without contracts. Freedom is our natural state. Reclaiming sovereignty means reconnecting with that truth. It means remembering that your worth is not defined by government approval, by corporate systems, or by numbers on the screen. It is about standing in the present moment and declaring, I am enough. I am sovereign. I am free. When we live from that place, the chains of statutory fictions begin to fall away, and sovereignty becomes not just a legal principle, but a way of being. So in conclusion, the call to reclaim. So in this part 4, it's brought us to the heart of the journey. We have learned where common law came from. We have seen how sovereignty was buried under the fiction of the person. We have understood that contracts without consent are void. So now it is time to reclaim. Reclaim sovereignty in your words. Reclaim it in your choices, and reclaim it in your refusal to bow to coercion. Reclaim it in your honor, your truth, and your courage. Because sovereignty is not given, it cannot be handed down by rulers. It is not theirs to give. It has always been yours. And tonight, we remember, we reclaim it, we live it. Sovereignty is our birthright, and no paper fiction, no statute, no system can ever erase it. The time is now. The people are ready, and the call is clear. Reclaim your sovereignty. Just want to say to anyone that watches this, please know that you are enough, that you are special, that you are a one-off, and you deserve to be happy. You just need to choose to feel happy about being yourself. Have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you watch this. And always remember, more than anything else, you are enough in all ways for always. Thanks very much for listening.